Welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and every episode we get into what has made our guests vulnerable and how they've learned how to own their awkward in order to live their best life. Stay tuned so you can hear every awkward moment in today's show.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and today we have the amazing team from LAF Tech with Marcelle Allen and Brian Trendler. Marcelle and Brian, how you guys doing today?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us here.
I'm doing great. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks for both of you for joining us. This is such an honor. So in a couple minutes, I'm going to put you guys on the spot and find out what makes your team so awkward. But first, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you guys are and what LAF Tech is?
Yeah, so LAF Tech stands for Learn About Funny, and it's a humor education company, if you will, where we help people develop their mix of humor. And it's been a ton of fun. We also do comedy nights and coaching, and we've got a mastermind program. But we're really all about bringing people together in the name of humor and getting people to laugh and be more resilient and just to have a more enjoyable life all around.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Did she get it right, Brian? Is there anything you want to correct her on or add to it?
No, you know what? She's a prime candidate of someone who's drank the Kool-Aid. No, she's absolutely right. We have the mini workshops, which are frankly my favorite, and then I believe the actual laughter coach sessions that we have, where people who hire us to work with them on any of their presentation skills, any of their needs, methods, techniques to make themselves a better, more memorable, more hireable, and frankly, more rehireable and likable presenter. Those are really great because you also get both of us for the price of one, for lack of better words. So that's been a really neat thing to be able to have laughter coach sessions. And I still can't believe people pay us, quite frankly, for the ability to get funny. It's something that people are realizing more and more is important. And it just makes people more marketable in any field.
Right. Well, and it's funny. You don't think you can buy a sense of humor, but apparently you can learn to pull it out of yourself. Maybe it's a better way to look at it.
Exactly.
That's our new ad campaign. Thank you.
I'm here to help. So how did you come up with the idea of LAF Tech?
Ooh, good question. So maybe about 3 or 4 years ago now, Brian and I met actually on a Toastmaster stage, and we were at an event called Chi Talks, Comedy, Humor, and Improv. And I had so much fun at that event for the first time. Well, it was the first time I'd laughed in months after my own grief and sadness. And I was like, oh, my God, humor is amazing. But there's so many boring people I know, and all my clients need to know about humor. And I don't know, a couple of years later, Brian and I were talking about different ways to create an ongoing program for this, some coursework, some curriculum. I have a background in information marketing, so turning information into a course. And Brian had the know-how and the knowledge and a willingness to let me pick his brain and figure out all the different ways we can be better public speakers, essentially. So we're not training people to be comedians, but we are inspired by the comedians who are so magical in their speaking skills. And we've just been, curious and creative ever since, and just building the community. And I don't know, Brian, there's more to the story. What do you want to share about it?
Well, once again, I almost feel like I don't need to be here. But, Marcelle, you're right. When we met on stage, it was one of those unique opportunities where I think we both realized right off the bat that we have different ways of viewing and utilizing humor. And I think that's the real value that we bring when we've developed the curriculum for the 101 workshops and the 201 workshops, or the targeted learning, mastermind sessions, because I've always used humor in my career, or multiple careers, as far as, when I first started working to the corporate world. Humor for me was a tool. And it was something that I used to kind of disarm people or situations, get them to laugh, get them to become comfortable. And anyone who's been through any one of our sessions or anything with LAF Tech knows I always say you land a person as a person first and opportunity second. So you develop the relationships, you develop the humor, you develop that sort of back and forth, whether it's quipping, with little funny things, or just the ability to get folks to relax. And when they're laughing, they're learning better, they're retaining more, they're more open to suggestion, which isn't meant to sound creepy. It's just one of those things where there's just a huge value that we help teach people, because everybody has funny in them in some capacity. We strive to just get people to understand through our 6 methods of humor that if you identify where your skills are at, then we can bring that out. So,
yeah, and I love that you mentioned. Yeah, I love that you mentioned your 6 methods of humor, because you really do have a process that you walk people through of different ways to bring out and identify and use humor. It's not just, here's a joke and a canned, list of things you can say. It's actually using different methods and styles.
Yeah,
and,
we really don't teach joke dropping or joke making per se. We teach people to develop a presentation that uses a range of humor techniques to make it more memorable and to stand out versus being linear and dry and boring. And so it's more about adding the sensation in and the different sound effects and creating the scenes and the stories, having a bunch of one-liners, because that's not what we know how to do. We're not comedians. We're not teaching that type of humor, although when we give, dare I say, brilliant but timid people, that's my nice way of saying boring people, when I give them a framework, they end up being freaking entertaining, and they're dynamic, and they're brilliant, and they come to life because they have the stories, they have the message.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to kind of add some pizzazz to it and a little bit of sound and, create some scenes. And so it's not about making them joke droppers. It's making them better presenters, really.
Yeah. And the other thing that people are shocked, quite frankly, over when they do any of the Laughter Coach sessions or the mini workshops or just engage with us, they find that our focus isn't just on the content also. We don't, as of yet, have, how to dress for success type of curriculum, although that could be coming in 2019, because I'm often known for wearing shorts inappropriately. But it's how to use the space and how to use gestures and how to become the character that you're speaking of or become the product. And no, we're not teaching mime or anything silly like that, although someone somewhere at some point told me that was a bona fide thing. It's literally getting the people to become more animated, use their face for more than just a place where your eyeballs and your mouth and nose rest. It's teaching people to talk through their eyes, talk through expressions, and again, when we're doing character play, it's one of those things where someone can suddenly take a boring presentation up to a whole new level if it's not just death by PowerPoint. And then we can work with props and things like that as well, such as PowerPoint, or if you're just holding a pen and you're told from an improv perspective, sell that pen. How are you going to do that? How are you going to make that pen the best thing on the planet that absolutely everyone has to have? So it's way more than
right.
We have a sales and capitalism twist to it, because we're actually helping business owners, for the most part, develop more, profitable and well-rounded sales presentation, because that's really where I think Toastmasters falls short, is it's not training you to sell, and people need to learn how to sell, or they're going to be back at their day job, and sales can be fun, and that's where when you're got your own mix of humor and you have your own success stories you can weave in, people, they win, and we want people to win.
Right. Well, and one thing that comes to mind, because I've always kind of been that guy like Brian's describing, where you're getting the quips in and you're adding humor into the business world. But one thing that I've always been self-conscious about is if people lose respect for me by being the funny guy or the class clown. And I think there's probably an art to balancing that. Do you run into that, or do you have that fear from any people who come through your courses?
Oh, gosh. Oh gosh, yeah.
I think Brian was a class clown, weren't you?
You know, it wasn't as much as I was the class clown, but I was definitely never taken seriously when I needed help or I needed something to become serious, because I was known to be funny all the time. So I had to learn how to take my humor skills, for lack of better words, that I used as a crutch. I mean, I used it as a shield to protect myself against bullying. I also used it as a tool, quite honestly, to slaughter my adversaries, because I could use humor. Everyone else was laughing, but I was destroying the person in front of me. So I also realized very quickly that, you know, all jokes aside, humor can hurt. So there were things, you know, there were lessons like that, whether it was directed toward me or I realized afterwards that I had directed it towards someone else. I know it sounds hokey, but it's powerful. And, you know, that's where part of bullying comes from, in the sense that if you're making people laugh, well, guess what? The bully is enthusiastically encouraged to continue. So, you know, there were plenty of circumstances there and that I had to stop myself, or I've learned through coaching to kind of stop that in others, because especially with the self-deprecating or deprecating humor, there's a line all the time, and you have to cross both at least once before your lesson's learned. But hopefully, again, you do learn from that. And those are situations that we've come across with some of our workshop participants, as well as individual laughter coach folks, where they're trying really hard, or maybe they're trying too hard, so we can help them learn how to soften the blows, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And Brian taught me really well too, Andy, about public speaking. It's not just about being funny nonstop. It's about getting your message across in a way that's powerful and meaningful. And that's where, like, sometimes Brian will actually tone it down and go kind of corporate and clean and just neutral, because he's making a really serious point. He doesn't have to be funny about it. He can be serious. And I think that's where a lot of comedians would benefit from having their also maybe their corporate clean voice, when they can be powerful as a presenter and have a vision or a mission in the marketplace where they don't always have to be funny, you know, and that's where we talk about discovering your mix, because you don't have to be a class clown to be a powerful business person, and you can't be a powerful business person without having a sense of humor. So it's finding that mix, and we talk about that line, is it too far, and how do you know if it's enough, right? Because some of our best graduate students had maybe two main like laughs or jokes in the whole 5-minute presentation, and they're like, well, was it enough? And we're like, hell yeah, it was hilarious, it was memorable, it was way more dynamic than what they had. So it's not always about being jokes per minute as much as something that as a final presentation you're proud of and gets other people excited about what they can do, what those next steps are when they work with you.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're not actually looking. Yeah, it's interesting. You're not looking for jokes per minute necessarily like you would as a comedian. You are looking for what is that impact you leave somebody with.
Yeah, well, and you're also listening for the buying signs, and that's a big part of marketing is listening. And people forget that. It's not just talking, it's listening.
Right. Yeah, I've watched some people deliver presentations where they talk past the buying signs and almost talk the person out of buying product from them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We actually teach people to shut up.
Yep, that's important.
One of our favorite clients, who will remain unnamed, admitted to us point blank that she doesn't know how to shut up. She just talks and talks. And we love people that are coachable. And honestly, we have a very quick and easy process of culling the herd when it comes to people approaching us with needs. If they're not coachable, if they admit that, we don't want to work with them because we don't want to take that person's money and waste our time. And this particular individual, everything that came out of her mouth was war and peace. And sometimes it was a little bit too loud or a little bit too boisterous. So we were able to help her tone her message down, make it more effective. She happened to be really good at sequences, which is one of our methods of telling people how to do kind of a funny, funnier, funniest. So it's a simple swivel technique. And we were able to get her to refine her message and just make it good and make it solid and not as verbose, So
Yeah, and shut
Sure.
up and ask some questions sometimes too.
Exactly.
Right.
Nailed it.
So I do like to ask everybody, coming back to the theme of the own your awkward, I like to ask everybody, what is it that's that awkward thing, whether it was in getting LAF Tech put together or in working together as a team? What's that awkwardness you guys have had to get over and get past to get to where you are today?
Oh, gosh. Go ahead, Marcelle.
Well, Brian's the awkward one. I'm normal.
Wow.
I don't know. We both have a lot of weird, awkward things that I think kind of magically or seamlessly our brand together. It's been a creation. It's been this idea from nothing, and then we turned it into something. And that in itself, the creative process can be very awkward and very difficult. And Brian's 25 years of experience in advertising and my background in social media, like it's been a good combination of awkward creativity, I would say. I know the other podcast I was on with you, Andy, I think my grief story was a lot about grief and being a joyful griever, if that's a thing, or being Hallmark. How do you have fun with that? And so much of this journey has been, how do I help others who are hurting while I'm helping myself? And so I would joke with people that when I go to, our LAF Tech mini classes, it's like a freaking therapy session for me because I'm laughing my face off at their weird situations they go through. And I'm like, this is a dream come true. I'm getting paid to laugh, Normally you have to pay someone to just listen to you. And it's just been a different, I don't know, if you've ever built a business while you're going through something, it's that in itself is kind of awkward because you're living it, but you're also leading up other people through their experience of it. But the coolest thing about it all is everyone's got hurt. Everyone's got pain. And not that part is cool, but that we can help them. And that's been the joy, is helping people who just, lost a parent or lost a kid or lost a job, and they're able to bounce back and have new interview skills and have new relationship skills and new presentation skills. It's really exciting, So for me, I think that awkward creation would be my answer for this round.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and for go ahead, Brian.
She once again nailed it on the head. Awkward is part of what humor is, and like I mentioned before, we realized very quickly that we both have a style of humor. One of the best things about Marcelle is she doesn't think she's funny, which drives me crazy because people laugh with her all the time. Notice I didn't say at her. She does have a humor style. She has her little left field pitches that come out of the blue and just floor people. And they're like, did she just say that? She's got those little skill sets. And when we got together and created this business, it wasn't easy at first because she's pulling curriculum out of my head and I'm sitting there going, oh, God, that hurts. Because I'm a designer as well, I'm also control freaking over the look and feel of everything. But we laughed the whole time, and it all came together so well. Then I suddenly realized, after so many years of having another company by myself, solopreneur, I didn't realize until I started getting either teamed around or bossed around that I suddenly had a partner that helped keep me accountable for the quality, for the directions, for the methods that we were creating and disseminating the information, creating the curriculum. And everything has had this amazing ebb and flow, and it's turned awkward into awe or something like that, because it's been this really crazy cool journey. And I'm just going to be bold, and thankfully Marcelle's not sitting next to me, so she can't punch me. But we're going to just kick absolute tail in 2019. Because of what we've already got going on, and she's to blame. I'm just the creative one.
Well, and it's interesting. One of the things that you mentioned, Marcelle, was creating something while you're going through something, and I could imagine that for both of you, you knew there was this need, but I could only imagine it's developed, and things that you didn't expect to be doing or even have on a business plan initially have come out of it to some of the stuff that you have coming up in 2019. It sounds like some pretty awesome stuff I want to hear about in a second here.
Yeah, it's been wonderful from a product creation standpoint that we're really building community and experiences. And in such a high digital world where people need something to talk about on Facebook, having weekly events has been a perfect thing because people need a reason to come together and share and have something to talk about, right? So by having so many events that we host, it's been a really cool thing for us to create those experiences for them. But we've both stayed super curious about what's going on in the comedy world, and we've gone to dozens and dozens of comedy shows, and we've been learning. Like, we're a student. I mean, I see it as an art form, and so we're a student of it. And I've worked with so many different motivational speakers in my time that I know that, a speaker who's getting $1,000 per gig versus $35,000 gig, they're very different quality of speakers. And there's a big range of success and skill in there, and I've just been curious to hunt out and learn and to find them and to develop the curriculum to help people navigate that. Because there's a huge range for public speaking, and I bet so for comedy too, but there's a huge range of what people can command for speaking gigs. And that's something that, I don't know, it's exciting to talk about with people who have dreams of being on stage somewhere, to be an entertainer or an educator.
Yeah, and now you mentioned the difference between all these opportunities with speaking, and earlier you mentioned the difference between what you're teaching being a little different than Toastmasters, where people actually learn how to sell and not just speak. Because Toastmasters is a great organization. But what are you doing with that?
Yeah, I would love to share. So our new mastermind workshop, so we've done 101 and 201, and instead of doing a 301 right now, we're going to do these mastermind workshops, which are basically $50 per 90-minute session or 2 per month, $1,100 for the year if people want to commit to it. But we're modeling it after the Toastmasters basically workshop, right? There'll be an MC that presents, which is like the Toastmaster. There'll be 1 to 2 presenters. There will be some evaluators, some people that give feedback. So there's improv for everybody that comes, or you can come and be prepared. And then one of my favorite things from the sales perspective is the M report, or the M square, or the M to the third report, which is, as you know, Andy, you were at my book launch party for the Seagull, mine. And we're actually going to have people, come to the mic or come to the front and talk about what wins did they have, what lessons from the losses, what opportunities did they go after and actually ask for? Did they try to get on XYZ stage? Did they try to book, 15 appointments? What did they do? What's working and what's not? Because one thing I know about business for sure is resiliency is required in sales, and there's going to be a lot of rejection, and there's going to be a lot of haters, and there's going to be a lot of people who have nothing good to say. And to have a community around you will help people overcome and to step forward each day and to learn and to be like, oh, yeah, well, that didn't work. Let me try it this way next time. And we want to build that community for business owners where they can come together and get stage time, whether they're working on a book launch or a podcast idea, or they're working on new sales scripts, or they've got, a full gig they want to perform. We want to give people a chance to practice, but also get a little bit of coaching and feedback from the entire room, because we know that all of our LAF Tech classes in the past, we draw a pretty talented group of people from different industries, and we want to share their talents with everyone else too. Whether it's accounting or leadership or sales or different things, we want to create that mastermind where any performer can come and present, do some improv, and then meet some other people in the game and have a lot of fun. So we would love to.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome program.
Right?
Let me chime in with one of the things that I'm really proud of in regard to the mastermind. One thing that I was always blown away with in regard to Toastmasters, which I loved, by the way, I still love the organization. It actually helped create the speaker that anyone sees today when I'm on stage, or even in a sales environment, whatever. There's huge value in that organization, but the one thing that blew me away is I was part of one particular group for 6 years, and even after 6 years, hardly anyone even knew what my business was or knew what I did outside of Toastmasters, or there wasn't a community per se. And what we're developing with the mastermind is a focus on the fact that maybe you are a contractor, and you are a plumber, and you are a designer, and you're a social media specialist, and you're an author, and whatever. But point is that part of the masterminding is people can come to these sessions with a problem that they need the skilled individuals in the room to talk about and discuss and hopefully benefit from each other, and who knows, even become referral sources for solutions, whether it's themselves or someone in their proverbial network. So we want to grow that support structure, which exists in a myriad of different other, business type of applications, but never did through Toastmasters, is growing through LAF Tech and through these mastermind sessions. I think will go to a whole new level. So I'm very excited about that part.
Oh, I can definitely see that. And one thing, you've said a few different times, you've mentioned community, and that is one thing that I definitely see from everything that you guys touch, whether it was Marcelle's book launch party or the live feeds that you guys do both individually and as LAF Tech every week. I see this community of people on there sharing and offering ideas, and I've made some new connections and friends just through you guys, whether it's even online through Facebook or at some of your events, and it is extremely helpful. You guys have a great value that you bring.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we've got just a couple minutes left. What are some words of wisdom you guys want to leave with everybody?
I'm going to start this one real quick, Marcelle, if I may. Marcelle taught me yes and when we first met, and I think it's because she realized she had a troublemaker on her hands when we first shook hands. Yes and is a simple skill where you can take any situation and say yes and, and you can take a negative and turn it into a positive, or you can help lead a conversation into an appropriate space. And I just survived the holiday season. I don't know about all of you, and I yes-anded probably 265 times on a daily basis with some of the things I went through.
Only 265? Jeez.
Only 265. I might have to round it down. But the point is that if people embrace the funny, if people embrace the awkward and the sometimes inconvenient, and they learn to just say, yes, cousin Alfred, that's great. And have you thought about not talking about supremacy issues at the holiday dinner place or whatever? It's a
right.
very magical tool that I have thoroughly embraced. So that's my tip. Marcelle.
I love that.
So my tip comes from more of my digital marketing background, but I would tell folks to record all their presentations and listen back to them and realize that your presentation is a product. And the more you can, you'll be able to improve your marketing for that product if you have that product recorded. So whether you're a life coach or you're a podcaster or you're, on stage somewhere, record your product and improve that product. And, check out one of our masterminds if you want support with that. We would love to have people join us. I think our next round of workshops for the 101s are starting January 8th, Tuesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. It's either $3.95 or $65 each, but we would love to have a full group of, mini workshops and, of course, our masterminds. But we're all, I see we're all entertainers, whether or not we realize it, because some of us just see ourselves as educators. And the better you can become at being confident on stage. My old speaking coach said the one with the mic's making the money. And while that's not always true, it tends to be true. So if you're not confident on stage right now, you got to get confident so you can be on stage.
Sure. That is very good advice, and I think it is important to record and listen back, because I've caught myself where I feel like I'm saying something in a boisterous way, and I go back and watch a recording or listen to it, and I think, oh, this is dragging on the first 30 seconds. I'm not capturing anybody's attention right away. I got to redo this. But that's awesome. Yeah. So yes, it's bad, and I'm going to redo it.
Yeah, and the trick is to use yes and when you watch your recordings, because you will feel like a mouse, and you'll need lots. Yes and.
Yeah, exactly. You can't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, or have a bottle of whiskey handy. Or have a bottle of whiskey handy.
Or both.
Just saying. Yeah. Andy, if I can. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got just a couple seconds left here.
I was just going to say real quick, if anybody wants to log in Facebook Live on Tuesday mornings at 9:30. That's when we do our weekly broadcast. We'd love to grow that viewership. You can ask questions, give shout-outs, all that fun stuff. We would love more of that. And, Andy, thank you so much for the opportunity today.
Yeah, thank you both. I appreciate you being here. And we will have a link to your Facebook page and your website in the description. So thank you, Marcelle and Brian, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
Have a great 2019.
Thank you.
You
Take
too.
care.
Thank you so much for listening in for today's show. Be sure to visit awkwardcareer.com to continue your journey. And of course, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends so they can find their awkward side and learn how to own it.